Hi, my name is Tim Stokes, founder of Profit Transformations, and today we're talking about Step 5, Systems for Profit Growth. Why your business needs systems. It creates accountability for team members. When you hold a person accountable, they tend to perform more. Look at any sport where there's a championship, either national or international, and you'll see people perform and break records because they are more accountable. There's more pressure on them to perform. It's the same with your business. We tend to coast as humans in this life until we have to perform, and then we do when we have to. That's what systems can help with. Helps to increase consistency and quality. McDonald's built billion-dollar businesses all over the world by focusing on massive consistency and quality. So wherever you go, it tastes similar. Less errors, mistakes, and rework. If you know about them and you have them now, I'm sure you'd love the idea of getting some systems happening in your business. Takes the personality of the workforce, where certain people have a certain way of wanting to do it their way. It helps to reduce that significantly. Creates a better teamwork environment because people become more predictable when their personality means that they're not on a whim deciding to do certain things a certain way. So other people like it when systems come in because it just makes that synergy happen where people are very predictable at doing what they're supposed to do. It's a structured improvement program as well. When you have a system in place, you'll find ways to improve it, and that improvement program will go on for potentially years. And systems I consider like a live tool that it has a life and it keeps evolving and improving, which is what life is about. It's the same sort of thing with systems. So when you create a system, don't think it's finished. Think it's just beginning its life. You've given birth to it. Now let's support it and allow it to grow and develop and change. And that's very, very common, and let it happen. When people don't let systems evolve and grow, then employees can start to get bored because the ones using the system are the ones most likely to see the flaws or the gaps in the system. And if they're not allowed to change them, they get frustrated by the inefficiencies of a dumb system that they're forced to use. And you may not know it, but that can be a reason why employees move on and go and work for a different company because they don't like the rigidity of the structure because of these so-called perfect systems. Keep that in mind as you're developing them. It creates synergy between the departments too, where people can really perform. So 1 + 1 + 1 equals 6 or 10 or 12, so that each department is optimizing their performance. Each department is doing exactly what they're supposed to do, no more, no less, and then other people can take on, and that's what teamwork's about. People need to know how to play their position in a team and stick to it so that other people can work with them because they're predictable in that. They're not second guessing. That's just some of the reasons why your business needs systems. I consider a business as like a machine, and a machine simply does work to achieve output. Every business's work output can be compared across and within industries. So net profit margins is an ability of a business to do work. If a business has 10 employees and is turning over $1 million, and another business has 7 employees and it's turning over $1 million, the one with 7 is doing more output with less input, therefore it's a more efficient business. So you can compare one to the other and you can guess which one will have the best net profit margin. It'll be the one with 7 employees. It'll have the highest net profit margin because it has 3 less employees. So that's where you can compare business to business and its ability to output work. But it's not your business really that's doing the work. If you think about it, a business is kind of a figment of our imaginations, dare I say that without creating a lot of resistance. It is a figment of our imaginations because you can't see it, you can't touch it. You may say, oh yes you can see a business. No, you can see a premises and you can see products on a shelf. But the products on a shelf are not a business. A business is not something on its own. Just like if you're going to build a house, you might have a hammer, but the hammer doesn't build the house. The people do. So what really makes up a business is people, because people are the ones doing the work. Teamwork is about people working together. And if you think of your team with the analogy of like a gearbox where there's cogs in the gearbox that need to work smoothly together and harmoniously, and then look at this diagram, this picture. Think of the outside perimeter as being like the business, and it contains the business that has the roles in the business, and each of the gears within the business are working together and then we hit play, and this is like their business. It's opened its hours, the employees come to work and they fulfill their roles in the business, and as they're fulfilling the roles, these cogs are turning and doing their job. And the cogs can be departments, you could say, like a sales department, a production department, an admin department, a accounts department or finance department, and a management department. These are the different departments that a business functions with, and these cogs need to turn nice and harmoniously together. And if these cogs didn't turn too well together, then, well, imagine this was steel. And if this was a steel structure and these cogs kept turning over and over and over, what's going to happen? Well, the cogs are going to get a bit dry. There's not enough lubrication. Then the cogs may start to squeak a little bit, and they might grind a little bit. They may get a bit rigid. And as they're squeaking, squealing, screaming, this could be like people that get frustrated with other people that they're working with. And it's like, why are you doing it like that? It frustrates me. Or I don't know what you're doing. You're unpredictable. So this is what happens in a business, is similar to what could happen here if this just rigidity is there, where the cogs are really clear and all the systems are there and there's something missing. And the thing that's missing is the lubrication. In a business, lubrication is having team meetings regularly. When you have regular team meetings, it lubricates the cogs, the departments. And when businesses have team meetings, sometimes they have them with just the production team, the technical team. Toolbox talks, they call them. Well, they don't really work, because the things that need to improve is often from people outside of that department can show them things. Admin people can sometimes say to production people, why are you doing it like this when you could do it like that? And the production people go, that's a good idea. No one ever said that to us before. I do this with business owners. I work with them without coming to see them and looking at their business and living in their business while I'm working with them. I'm very objective, so I see things and ask them things like a customer might be thinking, and I see things that they can't see at all yet. For years, they just don't see what I see because I'm objective in it. And that's what happens when you run these team meetings. So the different departments can see things that the other departments can't see. Now, the cogs need to work together and keep operating together. The cogs also need to turn without you. Now, if your business is one where you have a lot of employees, let's say you've got 10 employees or more, what happens if we take you out of the picture? If we took the red cog out of this picture, then where would the business be? Would it be running really profitably and smoothly without the big red cog in the middle? I like to suggest it should. In this diagram it may not, because this diagram to me relates a lot to the business owners that I've worked with and met and had as clients over the years, that if they're not there, nothing much is getting done, or their productivity drops 20% straight away. That's where team building is absolutely essential, and the business owners that don't do team building typically will have this problem forever. Even if they have 30 or 50 employees, they still have this issue going on. We'll talk about that a little bit as we go on. So what are systems? They're what I call digital files. They're not just documented files, they're digital files. Videos are often the best, yet the least used. This video is an example. You can put videos in your business very, very easily. They can be in Excel, Word, PowerPoint, audio, PDF, or other file formats. Imagine having a video or audio that you gave people to learn from, and then that they actually got as much out of it as what they would have if you talked to them. You've just replaced yourself and freed up an enormous amount of time for whatever the length of that is, and probably a bit more. They can be checklists, procedures, and policies. Simple checklists of remember these 5 things when a person rings up to ask them these sort of things. It could be as simple as that. So systems are all these different things. They're tools to use for accountability and to leverage your experience. I'm sure you've got some great ideas in your mind that are kind of like secrets that your business and your employees would benefit enormously if you got them out of your mind and shared them for other people to access readily and to use. That is a very key ingredient of growing your business, and especially to leverage. So when you create these digital tools, these digitized systems, then you can leverage your experience enormously all across the country, all across the world. They are actions that you take once and benefit from for years. That's why doing this work is work you do once and you benefit for years. Do you like the sound of that? Would you like to write a song or write a book and then get paid year after year after year? Well, think of that as systems. It's the same thing. You create a system, you digitize it, and then it's finished. You've given birth to it. You may need a bit of refinement of it, but then it's done. Put it out there and benefit for years. Save a massive amount of time. Whatever the duration is, multiply that by how many times people look at it. Think of the time saving of that. It can be enormous. There are three big profitable systems I want to emphasize a little bit now. You might have guessed one of them at least. First one is sales. These aren't in any particular order, but sales, I believe, is the most profitable system that you can develop in a business. And that's based on pure experience of in my own business. When I started learning really effective sales, training, and marketing back in about 1996, I was able to put my prices up 20 to 30% and be the most expensive in my whole area for my service I was providing, and yet I had a very high conversion rate. My profits went crazy high, extraordinary high. I was just stunned and amazed. And when I got into the business coaching industry as a pioneer, 1996, 1997, I used to ask business owners, how's your quotes? Do you win most of your quotes? And they go, yeah, I'm pretty good. I win about half. Oh, okay, good. Well, let's talk about marketing. And then all of a sudden I go, well, how come we're not converting many? We're generating a lot of leads. How come your sales haven't gone up from the measuring? Oh, well, I don't know. I said, well, why don't we measure your conversion rate? Within the first 2 or 3 clients and measuring it, I found the conversion rates weren't 50%. They're like 13%. And business owners tend to assume it's way higher than what it actually is. They assume that it's high, and it's rarely is it anywhere near anything what they assume. And I've had clients that I've worked with where we've gone from 20% to 60% within about 4 months. I've had clients go from 2.5% to 72% within 9 months. I've had all sorts of amazing outcomes from putting sales systems into nearly every service business or manufacturing client that I've worked with spectacular results nearly every single time. And the sales system needs to include a pricing system, so anyone can price whatever it is that you're selling in your business with some training, but using a system. Measuring is another one. Every business I've worked with, when we measure, we find ways to increase profits. I'll give you an example. A trailer manufacturing business was turning over about $4 million within 2 weeks of measuring all their trailers and how long they were taking to build and the labor costs, material costs. We found by putting the numbers into the simple spreadsheet that I gave them to use in the training, that 20% of their turnover, about $800,000 worth of work, was making a massive loss for them. And they instantly made a decision to stop doing it, and that was it. They just completely stopped. So they stopped making these little tiny box trailers, which they were selling to try and be competitive. But when we measured it, they were actually making a massive loss on it. So by stopping that work and that 800K worth of turnover, it actually increased their profits because they weren't making a loss. That might seem strange, but by dropping their turnover, their profits actually jumped significantly. And it was so obvious within 2 weeks. The first week there was a bit of doubt on the numbers being accurate. The second week they were actually spot on because they were consistent. It was an easy decision. Another company I worked with, a tile shop once, a retailer, they were doing a lot of advertising, local papers and online and things like that. We found within the first month of measuring, all of it was a complete waste of money. It didn't produce a dollar profit. And it worked out to be $42,000 a year that they were spending on advertising. That was a complete waste of money. So that's an instant profit increase of $42,000 a year. Now, I don't know about you, but I'd like to get a $42,000 a year profit increase from just doing one little exercise for a month, making that benefit year after year, because that's what he'd been spending year after year. So measuring is what liberates profits. And marketing, well, we'll talk about that a little bit more. But these three are the big ones. These are the least developed systems of all businesses I see, but also the most important for profit and profit margin increase. 95% of all business owners I've found have never actually paid for sales training. I had a client recently that in the training they went from an equivalent of $1 million a year turnover, so about $20,000 a week, to $8 million a year, or equivalent of about 160,000 a week, and that happened in the training in a space of about 9 months. It was the most explosive growth I've seen in a business ever, and they were opening up other offices in Australia. They went from the Gold Coast to Brisbane to Sydney to Melbourne. They were a service business dealing with non-profit associations for a very niche service that they provided, and what they actually provided as a service was sales people. And this particular business owner had been to 14 sales training workshops before he met me. He hadn't quite put it together as like a big jigsaw puzzle, which is where the explosive growth come from. But the sales training, he had phenomenal skills in sales training. And you know why? He'd invested in 14 different sales training workshops over a period of a couple of years. And those 14, he said, I sat in one workshop for 3 whole days. It cost me $5,000 to go with myself and my team members. He said, I sat there and learnt nothing for 3 days except for one line. And that one line, he said, jumped our conversion rate 20% and made us hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's what can happen sometimes from training. You don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're going to get from the training until you attend. But that's where it's the most undervalued, underutilized strategy there is to rapidly increase profits. Same with marketing. I've found 85% of people, over 85% of people have never paid for any marketing training. They just outsource it. They pay a website developer, they pay a newspaper, they pay a magazine, they pay all sorts of people to run ads for them, and they've never read a book on it, they've never spent a cent on it. And the saying, a fool in their money is soon parted, is a very relevant saying in business environments. So my question to you is, have you paid for training, or you're assuming you don't need to? That assumption could be costing you millions of dollars in sales and profits. Something to think about. So where do you start with systems? Well, it takes 6 to 12 months to complete all systems in a business, and once you start, you will never stop, because systems need to be alive and constantly evolving. I'd be amazed if you could do it in 6 months. When I built the Business Certainty Workshop series, I documented in 1996 after working for 10 years with clients, hundreds of clients, to solve their problems, and the feedback was, why aren't you giving us completed systems? You've got a lot of experience, can't you just give me the system? And that question stumped me, and I thought, you're right. Instead of charging him an hourly rate and doing one-on-one coaching on the phone, I thought it's time to stop being in the dinosaur age and start leveraging everything. So I documented what it is that I did. Now, it took me about 4 months to document and collate what I already had, because a lot of it I already had, some of it I created. I wanted to build the best training system in the world that increases margins and gives business owners more tools than anything they've ever seen in their life. Now, when I first documented that, there were 7 workbooks and there was 400 pages. Now it's grown to over 600 pages and 9 workbooks, and I've kind of stopped adding to it because I could forever. But it's been evolved for the next 6 years since that time. 2006, sorry, not 1996. 2006 is when I started running workshop series in April 2007 and putting people into group trainings, and it's just evolved from there. And it's fully systemized, the whole thing. There's 9 separate workshop subjects, there's 15 sessions, there's PowerPointed all the way through, everything's systemized, all the spreadsheets, it's all refined, nothing needs to be changed, but it took years to get it to that level. So don't expect to just finish it, knock it all over and it's done and you haven't got to touch the subject again. It doesn't work that way. But the good news is, as you create systems, you can make people responsible for using them, and then they can improve the systems instead of it being you, and then it takes a lot of it off your hands. What will benefit your business the most is a good question. If you're not sure where to start, which area of your business by way of systems? Measuring systems, if you're not sure still, measuring systems is one of the best places to start. Get a CRM if you don't have one. There's dozens of them around the marketplace, from free ones to hundreds of dollars per month, depending on how much you need as far as sophistication. What about some simple spreadsheets? In video 3 we talked about 9 different numbers that you need to measure on a weekly basis. You could put them down 9 rows of a spreadsheet and make each week a column and start tracking some basic numbers. That could be as simple as a system to get you started. Starting is what it's all about, and then by doing that you'll see some numbers. And every business that I work with in the 7-step training, once business owners have put some spreadsheets in, when we get to Month 4, we talk about what the numbers mean and how to plan and grow the business as per video 4. But at step 5, nearly everyone's saying, oh, I'm so glad we're doing systems. I've just realized I'm looking at the numbers. I've got all these inconsistencies I didn't know they had. I really need systems. I can't wait. And that's an example. So when you do a bit of measuring yourself, you'll see this in your own business. So what's the next person you need to hire? Systemize that role so they can self-learn from your systems. There's a good suggestion. Okay, here's a super sales system that you definitely need if you want to add 100% increase to your conversion rate. If it's 30%, you can go to 60. That's 100% increase, that sort of thing. These are sort of the ingredients. These aren't all of them, but these are a very good start. You need to know what an auto email responder is for your salespeople. Your salespeople need to know what you're sending to prospects so they know how to continue the conversation if they were to call or if they're following them up. Outbound calls or inbound, but we need to have a system for that, a documented system. We need to have a face-to-face sales system as well. Now, this includes you, business owner, if ever you go to a networking event or a workshop or a Chamber of Commerce meeting or a BNI meeting or any of those sort of events where you may meet another business owner and they go, what do you do? Your answer to that is your elevator pitch, and you need to have a very, very good one. And if you've got one, that's a face-to-face sales system. That's an ingredient. It's not all of the ingredients, but that it can be one of them. You may do quotes for people in their homes or in businesses. That would be a face-to-face sales system as well. Common objections and preventing them. In the sales training that I have in my workshop that I run, so 2 half-day sessions, I teach people how not to create objections because salespeople actually create them without realizing it. The biggest one is that they're actually annoying people and they don't know that. That's because they don't understand disc profiles, and each disc profile is kind of quite annoying for the other 3, which means you're commonly annoying 75% of the population in a sales situation when you're just being yourself. That's something interesting to think about. So when you learn how not to annoy people in a sales environment, because I don't know about you, but I don't like giving my money to people that annoy me, then all of a sudden you make a lot more money and your sales go up. And this is the art of how not to create objections, is stop annoying people, because people won't say, I'm not buying from you because you're just annoying. I don't know too many people that will ever say that to someone, but that's what they think, or they just don't warm to them, and you're not warming me up, I don't know, you're just not influencing me to want to part with my money, I'm going to go somewhere else. Rapport building techniques, that's again part of a sales system. There's many different rapport building techniques, from all sorts of things: body language, voice tonality, language structures, vocabulary, specific wording, all sorts of techniques of building rapport. The best questions and techniques. Sales is the art of asking questions, because leaders don't sit there and wait for followers to ask them 5,000 questions. They proactively educate their followers, and sales is a leadership environment. You're leading people from doubt and uncertainty and fear and apprehension into confidence and happiness and satisfaction they made a good decision. It's a leadership process. Very few people understand that's what sales is. And it's like you going to a medical doctor and going in with 20 questions. If you try this, you'll find the doctor gets a bit annoyed because they don't want to be interviewed by someone that actually doesn't really know what they're talking about. You don't go in and ask them 20 questions. You go in and wait to be asked. But customers may ring you up and ask you a question. What they're really saying is, help me. This is the most intelligent question I can ask you. Can you actually not answer it and ask me something so I can learn from the experience to make a more informed, educated decision so I can buy from you? That's what sales training is actually all about. You need to have a minimum conversion rate for your business as well. So you hire a person, you say you've got to hit this conversion rate in this time frame. You need to have a qualifying system so that admin people can stop giving on every lead to a salesperson. I'm not a believer that salespeople should be talking to every person that rings up, because I found through sheer experience that about a third of people are people that admin can handle or talk to or recommend another company because the company you have doesn't really suit their buying interest. And I worked with a builder once and he was stuck at 2 million turnover, and by putting in a qualifying system we took out 40% of all the quotes that were never won ever. And so we just prevented doing quotes for those ones because they're never going to be won. People wanted to spend $5,000. Their service started, they were building room extensions at $40,000, so they couldn't be offering $5,000 or $10,000 room extensions. It was just a waste of their time doing the quotes, but they were wasting time with them, so they just used to find this out on the phone. By qualifying, we took out 40% of the quotes. And then I filled up their week by redesigning their ads and tripled the response. Therefore, they only had to run the ads about a third of the time. So we saved a lot of money on advertising. We filled up the salespeople's funnel, but because they weren't doing 40% of their quotes, when we filled up their week of quotes, all of a sudden they converted so much higher, and that business added $980,000 to the sales within 3 months, only by using about 3 strategies. We did the team building, we did the building your vision, did the team building, did the measuring, and then by measuring, it's so obvious what the next thing was the sales. That's what we did, and bang, exploded it. Added nearly $1 million in sales in a few months, and then kept going from there by teaching them how to sell face to face, because we hadn't actually done that at that time. So this is an example of some of the things. And you also need to have that pricing system so that you're selling with predetermined gross and net profit margins at the time of sale. Let's talk about a super marketing system now. Now this isn't all of it, just like that's not all of a sales system, but these are some of the points I thought I'd put down the page as being some of the most relevant. You need to have an excellent website with images chosen by a professional, and also the copywriting done by a copywriter, the text on the page. Too many website developers say, we'll build the website, we'll build you a fantastic website, you supply the images and the text. The images and the text, I believe, are more important than the rest of the design of the website to actually make you a lot of money from it. And they're giving that back to you as your response to come up with. I find that pretty amazing that these are so-called marketing people that are experts sometimes. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're awesome and they do all this. But to leave the business owner in their ignorance to figure out what some of these most important elements are for them to come up with and give it back to them to finish it off, that's not what I call an effective marketing strategy. So that's something to think about. Name and email capture and free offer on your homepage as well. If you set up a name and email capture mechanism with a free offer, free report, free newsletters, free videos, free something or other, after you've done it, tell me it doesn't work. Because if you get anyone giving your name and email that is visiting your website, they are all lost prospects and lost sales that you never got because you didn't do it in the first place. You don't know that you don't need this until you do it. So don't assume that you don't. I believe nearly every business should have it, and it should be compulsory for service and manufacturing businesses, every single one of them, because you're not just selling a basic product that people know and trust. It's about a service. Google Analytics is compulsory for every business. It tracks everything virtually. Social media, it can even track links in your emails, website visitors, all sorts of things. So that's compulsory. A blog that you want to add to every week. You need to have your social media, you need to have your Facebook, you need to have LinkedIn, you need to possibly have Twitter, definitely a YouTube channel, probably, or almost definitely Google+, plus a bunch of the other ones that are probably coming out these days. There's so many of them, they're sprouting everywhere. But you need to have a social media presence, because if you're not at these favorite places where people are in this world, and they don't find you there, they kind of think you're a dinosaur sometimes, and therefore they may not buy from you. They want to feel like you have a presence and you relate to them. There's a rapport because you're like me. Proposal letter, not a quote form. One of the worst pieces of marketing put out in the world these days is a quote form that's splashed all over the top of it, typically with the logo and the name of the company, which really impresses the business owner and their mum, but doesn't impress customers at all. And I believe you should be writing a proposal letter and not make the most important thing about it your self-focused logo, image, branding, business name. That is secondary to what it's about. Quote forms are designed to say, here's our price, shop around. That's what they do. And then people come back and go, I got a cheaper quote. Whereas I don't do that. I teach clients and I give clients in our Workshop 5 a proposal letter, pre-written template that has got clients of mine I had a builder, as one of many examples, say, I won a quote for a guy that said he had a $20,000 budget and I couldn't do it for $20,000, so I gave him your proposal letter, which I was skeptical would work, with a price of $40,000, thinking I'll never hear from that guy again. And he rang me up the next day and said, read your proposal, that was fantastic, can you go ahead with that job? And this same guy said, I can't spend more than $20,000, that's as much as I've got maximum. So there you go, that's an example of professional marketing. It has that effect. Guarantees can be extremely beneficial for some companies. All companies don't need it, depending on your industry. USP, most important question I love asking business owners on marketing, because it's one of the most beneficial questions to answer, is why to buy from your business? Why should I buy from you and not your competitor? If you say things like, well, we're more experienced, I'll go, yeah, so? We're really good at what we do. Yeah, that's what the other people will tell me. Most people can't answer that question very well at all. And if you can't, how can you justify higher prices and better value for money if you can't? It's a very important one. So if people said to me, Tim, why should I buy from you and not your competitor? I go, well, I don't think I've even got a competitor. If I have, I'd like to know who they are, because they're pretty few and far between. Most people don't do group training of business owners for a start, let alone online, let alone give business owners 600 pages in 9 workbooks in 2 ring binders with 49 attachments, finished measuring systems, finished recruitment systems, lead generation, 50 plus proven strategies identified for your business, review all your spreadsheets, look at your P&Ls for you, give you advice on structuring your chart of accounts, give you a system for pricing, give you marketing tools, give you full management recruitment. I could keep going, but I won't. But you get the picture. I can answer the question extremely comprehensively, and therefore I really don't have people that compete with what I do. And that's a good way to be in business. It's something I think you need to answer for your own business. And it takes a bit of time, but it's a great element of a super marketing system. The other one is you need to have extra lead generation systems ready before you need them. You don't want to wait till you say, oh no, I am short work, I don't have any work. Gee, I was hoping, hope's not being a very good strategy that makes you money, but instead of hoping that work picks up for 3 or 4 weeks in a row and it hasn't, then you go into a panic, and then you go and talk to some marketing guy you've grabbed or happen to bump into and said, I need marketing. Can you make the phone ring next week? I need it kind of like tomorrow. Can you do that? And they're not going to do a good job. And your desperation means you'll probably part with a lot of money by grabbing the first person because you're desperate, high need, low power. And yeah, you need to have these ready before you need them. So that if your leads drop once in a week and you're measuring weekly and they drop by 20%, you have your strategy, and bang, the next week they go in and tops it back up that 20%. Instead of waiting 20%, then 20%, then 30%, then 35%, you're already solving the problem as soon as it happens. So these are just some of the ingredients of super effective marketing. So my question to you is, how many of these are you doing, and how many of these could you be doing, and which ones could make the biggest difference the fastest? So your mission is to start on basic position descriptions if that's what you feel would be the most beneficial. And I said start, not finish. It is a good idea to start these things and finish them over time. Answer this question: which system will either make you more profit or free up your own time the most? Whatever your answer is, go and do that system. Go and create that system, may be a good one to do. Or you could start writing some policies. Sometimes business owners get very frustrated by employees not knowing certain things that they feel they should, or they're not following the rules, or they tell them the rules and they forget them. Well, policies are like that. So you say, these are the policies of this company from now on. And punctuality and breaks and a whole lot of other things you can put into that. So maybe that's a good one for you to work on. The good news is the Business Certainty Workshop series, if or when you're ready for it, gives you a lot of completed systems, templates, and training. It will save you months and months of work that you would have to put into creating these things yourself. So what's next is video step 6, Secrets of Sales and Marketing. So I recommend you go over this video a couple of times. Tomorrow would be good. Give it a couple of days, maybe go over it again. You get so much more out of it, and I'll look forward to sharing the secrets of sales and marketing with you very soon.